I know that from my generation, a lot of us have been basically impacted strongly by radio. And that meant like, if you love the show, you wanted to reproduce the show, So this is where, this curator thing, I think, started. It's like, I like to be the guy talking about the music also. So I was basically trying to be the host. And it started with the family hi-fi, and then my father was like, okay, so he wants to do that. He even built a little wood modules to integrate a very simple mixer, bro. It's like 4 faders, nothing, no EQs, no nothing, and then a microphone. And I was just doing this for myself.
Phil Darimont, aka Darimont, is one of the most unique curators and artist managers of his time. Born in Belgium in the 70s, he lived and traveled around the world, shaping his trajectory in the music industry as a highly renowned DJ, A&R, label owner, and digital distribution strategist for more than 3 decades. As a man of transmission, he is today shaping the incredible career of 3-step pioneer Taxon and many others, while being a music business mentor for the next generation.
Heavy is the head to wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.
If we are at a dinner party and someone asks you what you do for a living, as someone who does a lot of different things in our industry, how do you best articulate what you do professionally? And let's say you're around someone of some sort of prominence. I know it's not some random, it's someone in the music business. How do you best articulate what you do?
It depends eventually of the context, but I mean, these days, I'm always saying I'm a curator and an artist manager, because these are the main things that I'm doing. But, I've always been feeling like being, that's why I'm at heart, man. It's like I could sum up most of the things I did in my life as being a curator, be it with music, with people, precisely, bringing people in the right direction, creating things that were not especially existing, curating events. Even these days, I'm still curating playlists for brands, for example. And it's always about trying to serve the purpose of making people discover new things. This has always been the drive.
And the management side, of course, it's Taxon, right?
That's correct.
Is there anyone else on your books? Just the one?
Yes. There's basically, Taxon has been a beautiful human adventure and discovery, and this is where I've been giving a lot of myself with the team, and is really at the center of things. Yeah. But there's also the family around. There's
Suffocate's so fire. That guy's such a crazy...
He's an amazing talent. I'm always saying, they are music. They are not making music.
I love that.
Music is going through them, man.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see. And there's also Tandazo, that is
incredible,
an amazing person and singer, yes, and writer.
Yes.
And recently there's also Blue Method, that is a talent from Switzerland, actually.
Blue Method.
Okay.
What sort of vibe?
Oh man, he's making beautiful, I would say, house music in general. He's exploring Afro house, Afro tech, deep house. He's a talent from Switzerland, and he's Alf Cameroonese.
Okay, also. Amazing. I must check him out. Blue Method.
He's hot too, and you know how it goes, George. You attract people when you do good things, and you want to do good things. You attract good people. It's just the law of the universe.
That's powerful. So now, bro, take me and I love this question because I think it gives such good context to people. So take me, like, if I'm reading your autobiography now, if I'm reading, or we're watching your documentary one day, where does your story begin? And if you can also give us just some early context to your family, and if that story can transition into your first crossroad with something to do with music, and how something has caught you along the way, if it's the fashion, if it's the artist, if it's the DJ. So if I turn on Netflix now and it goes boom boom, and now your story begins, take me through that.
The way my head is functioning now is like, okay, what would make an interesting start to a documentary? And that's nothing I could answer instantly.
Yes.
Probably I would start with something from now and then jump back.
Yes.
But there's two things that have been the start of things. One is my father was, I'm a child of the 70s. My father was, of course, a child, or not a child. He was from the 50s, 60s.
Yes.
And he was on stage as a singer with a band, like this typical
crazy man.
Soul bands that were doing the ballrooms, as you imagine in that time. They were making covers of soul and funk standards. It was just a bunch of guys doing things together, very young. I think he was already doing this at 16, 17 years old.
Crazy.
And basically met my mother and decided to stop. He was confronted to this classic question: if you want to marry me, you have to stop the music. I mean,
that's
some
crazy.
people would go this way. My mother went this way, and my father chose her. That's why I'm here. So
that's crazy, bro. But it's also, you got to think about the times they were living in, bro. Like, I mean, it's all good and well in this day and age. We take those paths. Can you imagine back then of like wanting to do something as crazy as being in a band, bro?
But that's the thing. Probably it was a bit scary and unusual, and the parents were probably like, no, that's not serious. He cannot be a musician or whatever. Yes. But the way it impacted me is that there was a lot of music at home, and there was a lot of black music at home.
Yes.
And as far as I can remember, I remember also pictures of me like having 7 inches in the hand at 4 or 5 years old.
Crazy.
I remember starting to collect, and that means spend my own money at 10 years old. Like, that was back in the days, you could go to a supermarket and you had a wall of 7-inch with all the hits of the moment, and then the albums, and even the 12 inches. At least this is how it was in Belgium at that time. That was always, I would say, a big vinyl country. You could find vinyl very easily. There was a lot of record store. But as a young kid, I wanted to go and make the grocery shopping with, because I knew that there would be a 7-inch as a reward somehow. So I was attracted by the format, and I was immersed into the music from a young age. And back then, radio was a big thing. So I know that from my generation, a lot of us have been basically impacted strongly by radio. And that meant, like, if you love the show, you wanted to reproduce the show, So this is where, this curator thing, I think, started. It's like, I like to be the guy talking about the music also. So I was basically trying to be the host of the radio show. And that's how I realized, okay, if I want to do this, I need a microphone, I need a mixer, I need some source. And it started with the family hi-fi, and then my father was like, okay, so he wants to do that. And then he was kind of encouraging me to set my things up in the furniture where the hi-fi was. He even built a little wood modules to integrate a very simple mixer, bro. It's like 4
Very
faders,
cool,
nothing, no EQs, no nothing.
Wow.
And then a microphone. And I was just doing this for myself and mixing between tapes. For the one that remember that, there were tapes and vinyl. That's it. And what happened is that naturally, you know, I was developing my own music taste based on what I heard on the radio, based on what I was directly exposed at home. And then I realized that I had very different music taste than my friends. So what happened even as a kid, I had friends after school coming to my home to listen to music and say, "Are you listening to crazy shit, bro?" It's like
Like, what are we
but
talking?
I like it.
What was it like? What were you listening to?
Oh man, it was a mixture of the you know, the quality 80s pop of the time, and that could include, of course, like the premise of I would say synth pop of the time. You know, it was things like Depeche Mode, and but then in Belgium we had electronic body music.
Yes.
So you had Front 242, you had Nitze Rap. That kind of stuff, like going more on the industrial, very electronic side of things. But, you know, man, like the music that you had on the radio is like there's some standards of that you still remember now. It's really a mixture of things, you know. It's like funky stuff, soul stuff, of course, like in the 80s, you know, you had the big stars like Michael Jackson that had massive impact.
100%.
But I was definitely always interested in the music that you could dance on. So, you know, to talk about dance music seems to be too large, but basically it was like everything that had a groove, everything that was moving me. It's like I definitely had this thing. I was not a guitar person, for example, you know.
Yes.
But I've been exploring a lot of different things, and that includes rock too, you know. But what I mean is that it had to have always a strong melodic side and a strong groove. And I've always been very much attracted by things that were more rich rhythmically. So everything that was challenging rhythmically was exciting. And of course that was like bringing me to hip hop. You know, it's like hip hop has been the big, probably I would not say the first big flash, because that was through radio and the diversity of things. But when I was diving into it as a teenage more strongly, there was always this balance between, let's say, early electronic stuff, and of course the discovery of house. I would say in the mid 80s, you know, including the first things that were hitting the charts in UK, for example. I was always very attracted by UK more than the US in a way. But then there was, of course, the discovery of hip hop that was like life-changing, because, you know, it was, for me, it was the way to discover even more deeply the black music tree, because of the samples. You know, it's like you love the stuff, but then you realize, oh, that's actually something else. And I mean, I would say the biggest for me at that time, and that remains, it was people like DJ Premier and Pete Rock and De La Soul and, you know, all these Tribe Called Quest, man. Like, I think that's clearly if I would have to choose one hip hop hack, that would be them, because they sum up so much of what I love. And that's the thing. The jazz, for example, and soul and funk were so present in there that's what brought me to explore and dive more deeply into that.
Crazy, man. And I loved your analogy on like just the music tree, because you like find the song and you find a little deeper, you look a little deeper, you find the sample of the song that they sampled, and you find a whole other plethora of artists. I love that. And
absolutely.
when do you transition from playing around with this radio curating thing to, I want to either play music live or DJ? Does this come later, or how does this happen?
Yeah, so basically what happened is, like, I would say between 10 years old and 15 years old, I'm obsessed with radio and experimenting. I was like, literally, I was spending a lot of time in my bedroom, and I added some stuff. Like, for example, I wanted to have a second cassette deck to create some natural flanger effect and things, like same things on top of each other, and then you had the sound moving, and that was wow. It's like what you do like this now on a Pioneer mixer. Now it was like exploration, radio based, and then step by step it was like, okay, this is really interesting me. I want to play that, and I would say I became a bedroom DJ. Okay. And between 15 and 20, I developed my craft as a bedroom DJ. And then at 20, I was independent. I was out of the house. I was earning my own money. I was working in the clothes store and DJing. And that's when I had my first opportunity to DJ in a club, or even, the funny thing, man, I didn't even DJ in a bar first. It was straight to the club, because I was going in record stores a lot. I was basically spending, as I was working the whole week, my lunchtime were pretty much spent in record store. So I had 1 hour lunchtime, 10 minutes to eat, 50 minutes of record digging, and
crazy,
and playing them at the weekend. But because of spending time in this record store, I had opportunities, guys that were like, oh, I like what you're buying. By the way, you could come around and maybe you could play. And after the guy, that's a funny story. The guy that proposed me this the first time, he forgot the appointment 3 times in a row. I thought, like, okay, it's let's forget it.
Yeah.
And then he was so sorry. Then the next time that he was seeing me, he said, no, this time you come directly at the start of the night. You come before the opening, and I will test you out. And basically, I played for him 30 minutes, and he said, okay, you come back tomorrow, but you warm me, you make the warm up. And that was the start. I was jumping from the bedroom to the club. This guy gave me a big opportunity. The club was called Planet Claire. By the way,
in Belgium,
in Belgium, in Brussels, because I'm born in Brussels. That's my home. And Brussels was really exciting at the time. We had great house club. There was the start of Detroit techno that was very present at the Fuse Club, and we had great label like RNS, to name this one. So things were very vivid, and this Planet Claire place was the only place where they had as rule to not play any house and techno, but anything else. So the rule was like, play anything you want, but not that, because the others are doing it great. So let's be diverse. And that was an amazing school, because I played. We are then, in the early 90s. We are around 93.
Crazy.
And I don't have to tell you, that was the golden era of hip hop. That was the birth of abstract hip hop with Mo Wax, Ninja Tune. They were the Chemical Brothers, the Prodigy. There was New York House. There was the boom of acid house that was already done, and we were already in another phase in UK. So it's like, it were exciting time, even early jungle, So all these things, that was the ingredients that I was mixing together. And that was a time where there was no guest DJs. So, you were playing alone all night. So crazy. First I started with the warm-up, but then the owner was like, bro, I'll let you do your thing. And I was playing for 6 hours. That was my school of DJing.
Bro, wow.
So...
Jeez. And how big was the venue? So I'm visualizing. Like, how many people were coming into this club?
Oh, bro, that was a club. It was a beautiful place, like an old house that they are kind of arranged and renovated. But it was a place that was between 300 and 500 people.
Wow, okay, so it's quite big. Jeez.
Yeah,
It's
and I
not small.
mean, it was an intimate place. So for me, it was like, I was learning on all levels there because you were directly in interaction. So when it was great, it was great, and if you were missing out, you were missing out. There was no in between.
Wow.
But it's amazing memories of that time, and this residency led me to another residency that was called the Full Moon Theater. That was an amazing place that was mainly doing concert, and that wanted to touch the DJ culture. And then the owner of that place was one day in front of me and was like shaking his head, like, what the hell is he playing here? He was connecting it to his universe. That was very much the black music spectrum.
Yes.
And then he said, I want you to come and open concerts. And also connected to the sound that was exciting at that time. So that's how I started to open for funk bands or for DJ Crush, for example. The first time that DJ Crush came to Belgium,
crazy.
I was the one to do the duties. And yeah, man, it's
and just to step back, that transition from like bedroom to in front of people, you didn't struggle with like.
Strangely enough, not at all, because I was quite confident. I was confident on the message I want to deliver. I mean, my if I would sum up the school of that generation was like, we were, I think, more storytellers, and because we had to play for a long time, then you were naturally moving through sounds, which definitely defined the way I was approaching DJing. That's why, people like, the people that epitomize this for me is pretty much Laurent Garnier or Mr. Scruff, or DJ Harvey. Yes. These type of people. Theo Parrish,
yes,
Antal from Rush Hour,
yes,
and you can see it's like people that are between 50, 60, or even more now. It's like natural storytellers, simply because we have been absorbing a lot of music and anything that was exciting, basically, I wanted to play. And it buying records was sometimes, of course, buying stuff that you knew, maybe I will not play in the club, but maybe I will create a new little intro, because that was also the type of things that was done. Creating some transition, like what you would compare to interludes in hip-hop albums. Yes. You were like, oh yeah, and what if...
Cut those two together. I love
and eventually then playing this on tape, or after burn it on CDs and use that. Crazy. Or create it live. If you had 3 decks or something, you could mix different songs, man. It was all about being creative. So being in the bedroom or outside was pretty much the same thing, because for me it was just about experimenting and
incredible.
Telling the story.
I love that, man. What a special story. So when is the first, let's say, transition or path that comes your way of the music industry? When does industry step into your life?
So basically, early 90s were the start of me being a professional DJ and playing, I would say, every week in clubs in Belgium. And then I really developed inside of the Belgian scene, especially, and that's a funny thing, it was not even in my own city that I was playing the most. I was playing more in Antwerp and Ghent, that were more hot places for the scene, even though Brussels was good too, but it was like, there was another culture and a vibrant club scene, and they were a little bit more upfront.
Yes.
And obviously what I was playing was like, okay, this is forward thinking in a certain way. And then this developed naturally a network also, and more towards the end of the 90s, around 98, I moved to Luxembourg, that is only 300 kilometers from Brussels, that is technically another country.
Yeah.
But it was also a time where I decided to create my own website that was called Metronomic Family, where basically it was a mixture of a weekly radio show of 2 hours, which was based on discovering. I mean, I wanted to be Giles Peterson. It was like, you know, the type of curation that you have on BBC One. You know, it's like Giles was the archetype of this. Also from that generation, you know, he has been very influential in that way.
Yes.
And there was also interviews, and there were also like, I wanted to propose even some artists for bookings, because I wanted to put some people in the light. And so this website was somehow a blueprint a bit of what Resident Advisor has been doing after, but without the focus on events. I was not talking about events. It was just about music. That was the only thing I wanted to really highlight. The people behind the music, serving my own vision of what was interesting. And that website was also creating bridges, which means that I developed bridges on the international side because of that. But I forgot to mention that even before moving to Luxembourg, I was taking part to a magazine. You know, we created a magazine called Plastics. That was a bit the Belgian version of Straight No Chaser. That was the reference,
Crazy.
You know, the UK reference of the forward-thinking black music spectrum.
Yes.
And this has been, you know, something I took part to for 7 years. It was created by a guy called Groove Merchant that has been also an influential guy of the time. And I did a lot of things with him. We were even DJing together as Plastic Sound System also. There was also this thing of collaboration. Now things are coming back to me while we speak.
Yeah.
But the fact of doing a magazine, for example, created bridges with the record label. So we were receiving a lot of things. I had a column in this magazine with the things before it was. So I was calling it was called the Metronomic Column, actually. That's how it came. It was first the Metronomic Column, then the Metronomic Family website. That was my own thing then. But it was always with this same aim, George. It was like creating the discovery, opening doors, sharing. There was, of course, radio shows also even before, you know, in parallel to DJ on the weekend. So for me, it was always like, how can we spread the word more efficiently? And so when you think about it, all these different medias, I wanted to use them all, you know? So it was radio, magazine, the parties, also extending to doing some parties by myself, inviting some artists for the first time. You know, when the clubs are like, we're not sure. I was like, fuck it. Then I will do the party by myself.
Yeah.
There's this culture of, I discover over time that I had an entrepreneur type of thinking.
Yes.
But first, you don't even think about that. You don't see yourself like this. It's just come naturally. It's like if it doesn't exist, you have to create it.
Yeah. Which is so unique, and you don't realize it in the moment.
No, you don't. You don't realize.
Yeah, yeah.
You absolutely don't realize. You just think, okay, it needs to be there, and then. As I say, it created bridges inside of the music industry because some people recognize this. Of course, inside of the big corporation, if it was the big label or the small label, they were like, oh, these guys are doing good stuff, or this guy was doing good stuff. And then you develop this thing. And after being in Luxembourg, I've been living in Canada, in Montreal. After doing a tour over there, this also something that came naturally. Is like some people are like, Phil, why don't you come here, bro? It's like, it's cool here. You can be my roommate. And I was like, you know, I was just after a breakup, a huge breakup, where I was like, I have nothing to lose. Like, okay, let's cross the ocean, Montreal. And then I took care of a record store also in Montreal. That was a second-hand record store that was amazing, called Primitive, which was existing for a long time. But the guy saw my passion for things. It was like, okay, let's bring in new blood here. And then, you know, it was about renovating this place. And George, there was there was the whole guys, there was this connection with Toronto, the disco guys, Hong Kong, and all these people that were coming. The guy from New Orleans bringing records, the hip hop records, the old disco records of the golden era of disco. Everything was coming in this place. I felt blessed to be there at that time. And then things brought me to Germany because I had a love story with a German girl, and she had to go back to Hamburg.
Yes.
And she has been my partner for long years, by the way. And later we even created record label together. So you see, it's like one thing led to the other.
Yes.
And it was also in the early 2000s, around 2002, 2003, then I dived into physical distribution. So I was working for a physical distributor in Hamburg.
Yes.
That went bankrupt not so long after, because that was a time where physical distributors were falling one after the other. There was some important bankruptcies in UK that led to a domino effect in Germany. Crazy, and in other countries.
So you even experienced that transition like firsthand.
Literally the transition from vinyl and CDs to the digital thing was my next level, because after experiencing the bankruptcy of digital distributors, and which was nearly killing some labels, it's like back then it was like labels like Sonar Collective, the Jazzanova label, True Thoughts, the UK label, the Goma Records, the guy who created Toy Tonics later. Goma was a really cool label. They were all part of this, and Compost Records. That was the biggest of all. That was really popular at that time because it was the new jazz era,
Crazy.
So this distribution company disappeared, and then it was literally for me like, okay, what do we do to have all these label and artists that I love to survive? And it happened that because of my website, somebody in Hamburg who was building one of the pioneering digital distribution company really liked the concept of, okay, we need to sell MP3s now, and iTunes was not even existing then. It was just before the birth of iTunes. And this is this person, Oke Gödlich, created a company called Fine Tunes.
Yeah.
And he invited me to join them to basically build this thing. And it was literally like building from scratch. The idea was there. The technical infrastructure was there. And that was also the moment where Apple said, okay, guys, you can start to deliver to us. That was the start of the digital market, man. And
Crazy,
that was
bro.
2004. And when I arrived at the company, there was nothing existing to even present the concept of digital distribution, or, imagine how violent that was. Like all these people that were selling CDs, suddenly it was like, okay, 99 cents a track and you will have your share of that. But it's like nobody was buying that in their head, in the industry. It was really like super violent. So I was part of these people that were approaching all my favorite labels and artists to say, guys, if we want to have a chance, I think that going in the digital market is probably the only chance. And I was drawing the lines of the digital market, like we were like pioneering. There was a few people in UK, a few people in Germany, in France that were like testing the ground as companies, and because iTunes shaped up and saved, let's say, clearly the music industry at that time.
Yes.
Something developed out of it. But that was what was really beautiful, is then to, I was signing people from everywhere, from the US, from Europe, Scandinavia, wherever it was, and convincing them of, getting the music spread in that way. And there was a lot of resistance first, but then, obviously, what happened after. First, it was the boom of the downloads, and then it was the boom of streaming. So for, I would say, 15 years, 20 years, I've been diving into the digital distribution world, taking care of labels, shaping their strategies to make them the most successful possible, telling their story in that way. And when I had the feeling that everything was done on that side, then I was like, okay, it's all artist-centric. If you want to develop things properly, you have to focus on the artist. I was already doing this in a way in the digital distribution context, but distributors just see numbers and volumes, and sometimes you were literally hitting a wall that profit was literally against the artistry in a way. You wanted to go deeper and develop this artist, for example, but you were not allowed to have the time to do so. Of course, you had some big stories, I signed record makers, for example, the French label that launched Sébastien Tellier and Kavinsky, and we told the story. And I worked on this for years, and nobody believed in it. It was before Larry Tournelle, for example.
Jeez.
Or Paul Kalkbrenner after with Berlin Calling on B-Pitch Control, or Jimster with Free Range, or Local Talk, the Swedish house label that was a big thing also. I mean, there's several, or Adjazz, for example, these were all people that I signed because I really wanted to spread the gospel about them, but it's like, it's crazy to think about it, that I always had this phase that, these people were doing something meaningful and special. And most of the time you had to convince, because it's like, yeah, but, do you think that? Till you had the proof.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding, as you say here.
Yeah, exactly.
And you needed to come at one point with the track that would make the difference. And it just that because you have this phase, you're building things with them, and at one point something is happening, you know. But all these things were, again, another great school and diving deep into all the aspects of the industry till the point of today, where focusing on developing directly all aspects of the career of somebody is what is really exciting me the most.
Amazing, bro. And it's around that time of I obviously stepped into my first role outside of curating a festival to working at a label in Germany. And that's obviously how we met. And geez, I was blown away at your ability to, for me, at least at the time, even though I was so involved in the music industry in many shapes and forms, I'd never worked in a label or distributor scenario. So, strategy to me was like, okay, song's coming out Friday, cool, the artwork, did you get the video? And then I meet you, and then you sit me down. I'll never forget your first pack that you took me through, and you're like, hold on, roll out, storytelling, George. This is we're telling a story. This is like the first chapter, bro. Like, what is the first chapter? What's the introduction before we even open the chapter? How are you going to piece the story together? And you just open my whole eyes into this whole game of understanding. And it's been such a pleasure learning from you, bro. Especially, I went on then to work for a music distributor and headed up the South African office for an American, massive American label, here in South Africa. And so it's just those things that I carried with me to that side. And I was the one telling people hey, bro, what story are you telling? Open the book. What's the introduction before chapter 1, So it's an incredible thing. And to see your ties and obviously linking with Taxon. I mean, seeing it with Taxon and Smanga so early, bro, geez, I mean, you literally had that vision. I think I saw the magic for the first time when I went into studio and I got to see Taxon creating. What do you think makes Taxon so special?
Oh man, that would be a podcast of its own. You know, recently I really came to the point. I was talking about it yesterday again with Moti. Thaksin is a kind of Bob Marley. He's a quiet leader. He's such a man of peace. He got a peaceful aura, and whatever he's doing is always coming from a good place, and it's pure vibes. You know, he's pure energy. It's like what I discovered with him is that he's somebody that is making me feel very calm and very peaceful and also very focused. It's effortless. Everything is effortless with him. And that's what he does with music. Creating is effortless. Being with people, creating the chemistry is effortless. But, you know, it was just a very, very strong gut feeling back then that there was something in the early music that he made where I was using immediately the word universal. There's a universal value in it. Because for me, you know, African music is like the source. You know, it's the source, and I think it's still underrated in a certain way. You know, it's easy to say, yeah, you know, there's so many talents in Africa. But instead of coming to colonize, I would say, which in my opinion, the major labels have been doing strongly. And I really don't like this principle. I think that it's more important to nurture at the source. So it's like, personally, what I have been cultivating with him and Smanga is to let Thaksin being himself and honor his African roots, and also simply not care about how it's done on the other side of the world or whatever, or to say, oh, if you want to make it, you have to do it that way. It's literally the opposite. And by nurturing this, and that's how we came to have Tebang feeling empowered to explore more, to experiment more. And this is how we came to what you know now as Magnificent Dance or Possessed. This is coming from that place. And that he pioneered something that is seen as a new genre. And this gives me goosebumps every time we are going back to this. It's accidental, but to me, it's not a coincidence that, let's say, he's leading the way somewhere to explore and to go, you know, and also to unite scenes and people in a way that is very special. That's pretty much him. And that's also pretty much us, because I simply had a vision to reveal him to himself. If you know what I mean. It's that's like powerful, it's a beautiful thing to come to that, you know. And I think it makes the whole thing very, very powerful, because everything is authentic. And you know, authenticity is one of the biggest value you have to bring on the table. It's like you cannot run behind success and money without being authentic. This does not make any sense. You know what I mean? It's like, don't think about the money. Just make something meaningful and authentic, and you will see something will happen. You know,
dropping bars, yeah, dropping bars. Come on, bro, that's beautiful, man. That's gonna resonate with so many people, man. And that was really well put, bro. It was really, really well put. Tell me, how did Magnificent Dance happen?
Oh man, you had Thaksin explaining the thing to you here at the very same table.
Yeah.
He wanted to you know, to bring the different sides together, you know, which which result in, when Amapianos and Afro House if they had a baby, that would be 3-step. And that's what it is. But I even think it's too simplified. Because it's a lot of things, It's
we got the artist answer, I love to get the management answer, like how it happened in the background, like how it happened with the strategy, how it happened with the label, maybe just give us like a bit of a...
Yes, okay, you want to unpack that. Anything that Tabang is doing is coming to my ears first, and then we develop this because this is where it's special also. It's not just management does not mean much. It's the guy counting the dollars in the back room or the guy making the big deals, but for us it's pretty much first like brothers doing something together, and that takes the three of us. This is really between Taksin, me, and Smanga, and it's a powerful thing because we take all decisions together, and that means that the artist is directly involved. And so, first of all, it was a musical discussion. It's like Tabang presenting me things, and I was like, "What the hell is this, bro?" And then that was pretty much in the happening between spring and summer 22. So Magnificent Dance was released in December 22. And I don't want to mix up the timelines, but basically when I discovered it, the first thing I thought is like, we need to test this out because this is different. So I put it in the hands. So we don't talk about any record deal at that time. I put it in the hands of a few selected people that were to test it during the festival season, Ibiza. And these people were Rocco Rodamal, that was very close to me because I've been working with him too. And he was playing a lot on that summer. Louis Vega, Manu. Let's see what he's doing. And it happened that in Ibiza, Rocco is playing it, and somebody is there that invited him. It was connected to the first chapter of Sandela, and Seth Combo was like,
Wow.
The thing is, I was already in touch with Seth. Because Sandela was interested to release music from Taksin, and we had already discussed all the tracks, and we were on the way to release all the music, but then Seth heard this one. He even sent me a video on that evening like, Phil, this is fire. I need this. And I was like, yes, but we have something on the plan. But Seth is somebody that I greatly appreciate, that is a great curator, tastemaker, doing his thing now with his Still 2 parties in London that are beautiful events that he's doing for a very long time, that he relaunched after Sandela. We trusted each other, like we felt that there was something to do. And then on one hand, there was me and Tabang, Tabang was like, bro, I feel the street is warm. I see the reaction when I'm testing the thing out here in South Africa. So on the international front, there was this test, but at the same time, there was the test. It was also in the hand of people like Oscar Embo. Then suddenly there was a video of Oscar vibing. And at that point, by the way, it was not called Magnificent Dance yet. I'm the one that pretty much named the tracks always based on what I feel. This is the thing internally where it's like, Phil, do your magic, and it's always come from a kind of fantasy,
yes,
or feeling the thing. And from seeing Oscar vibing, I was like, actually, it could be a special dance, and I was like, that's actually a magnificent dance. And it was in association, somehow subliminal association to the Magnificent Seven of The Clash, that I always thought is a beautiful title and part of my story. Magnificent Dance.
It's crazy story, Phil.
And so you see, one thing lead to the other. Then Seth is suddenly saying, hey, bro, maybe we can change the plan, because I said, we feel that this needs to be out for the South African summer, which is absolutely not normally what the European side, it's not like, let's not release stuff in December. But then we were rushing this thing. But Seth and me were really working as a unit to bring this out and convince everybody. And then we had to rush the thing, and I had to write the story in a flash for us to promote the track and put it in the hands of the DJs. And there was really this intention. We felt that because of the Amapiano element in it, we even did some special promotion to some Amapiano DJs. If I remember well, there was even a version that was like a few BPM down,
Okay.
To specifically fit better the Amapiano DJs. And in the meantime, the more DJs had this in their hands, then we could see it happening. And Kid Funk, for example, has been a strong supporter. It was like, we were receiving videos from everywhere that was like, hey, look what happened. And we had the feel that there was something going on. But it started really first like on the A&R level and a creative direction. That is like, and I forgot to say, George, I've always been working with one man that really deserves his credit. That is Klaas Lindblad in Berlin. That is a Finnish producer and engineer that lives for a long time in Germany, that under the name of Sasse or Freestyle Man as an artist.
Yeah.
Who's the man that has been doing mood music. He got an amazing studio called Black Hat Studio, and that has been my sound partner for many projects across the year. And when we started to work on Texan stuff, we developed the sound. We wanted to improve the sound.
You can feel it, man, and he's phenomenal. Like, I've heard so many of his mixes back when I was still at the German distributor. Like, he's incredible, man. And you guys have almost made that part of the signature sound now, where it feels like something that can't really be replicated, and you can't really put your finger on it,
It's simple. For me, it's kind of the fourth member, because we really wanted to have him touching anything that Texan was creating, and he became the official engineer. And still to this day, we managed to always convince also the label that we would not go with their mastering, but we would do ours. And is part also of the magic of Magnificent Dance in that way that, you hear it, there's a sound standard.
100%.
And the great thing, George, is that even before that, we have been releasing other things. We started to release with ICU end of 21. And it was very intentional to have a sound that was strong enough to be competitive on an international level, while remaining the nature and the flavor of Texan as it was. So as I say, it was to reveal his sound. And the more we were coming in, the more clear it was becoming that Texan was like, okay, I found my thing. So, it's how do you say, it takes a village to,
100%.
to raise us, and this is also an important thing to know. It's like when you see an artist being outstanding, there are people contributing to this that are very important, but that are in the shadow. And I'm not saying this to take the credit. It's just to say that there's many people collaborating to this.
100%, bro.
The same way that you need to have a strong entourage that starts also with your friends, with your family. It's like how supportive they are, how much they believe in you. But what I mean is like the constellation as it is, with the team now, where we have a part of the team on the other side in Berlin, in London, people in Joburg, people in Cape Town. That's what it takes if you want to tell a story powerfully.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's why this platform exists. I really want to shine a light on some of those people who don't necessarily ever step into that sort of space, and I think that's why it's powerful to tell those stories. And how much can you tell us about the next few steps with Taxon? Obviously, if it's not public knowledge yet, album dates and so on and so forth, we don't have to go into that. Like, how much can you share? What is sort of knowledge and what is coming soon?
What is the next level is that we will release the biggest body of work to date. That is his debut album. I will not share how it's called yet. I will not tell you when it's coming, because we are still putting the last touches to it. But bro, it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love, and we have been really taking the time to shape something meaningful, that is breaking boundaries, that is just beautiful music, and that very importantly, what is important to us is to give something to the culture. And the culture, culture is the life of people. So the first thing is, like, when you say culture, it's not just meaning cultural. It means, how can we be part of what people listen every day and in every condition? You remember when I sent you The Road is Long, the feeling it gave you? You were in the car on the road, but you can listen to it in many conditions. And it's music that is meant to be part of your life. It's a soundtrack of your life. So at the end of the day, our main aim is to create a soundtrack to the life of people. It's not to say, oh, that's the new genre, we need to be this, we need to be that. It's more like literally feeding a realm that is getting to the people in a more deeper way and in a more meaningful way, and that means also working with people from all sides. And this year will be pretty much like delivering the message about that, but also being inclusive of all the people that are with us. That means honoring all these other talents, and the list is long. People like Atmos Black, like Emperor Wav, like Citizen Deep, like Musa Keys, like Moonchild Zanelli, Tandazo, Suffocates. It's like this all these talents that got this thing in them. Not forgetting Moti, I'm forgetting people now, but it's not that I want to name them all. It's just to say we want to lift everybody up, and that there's a stronger voice for a kind of renewal of African dance music. We know there's Afrobeats, we know there's Amapiano, and I'm not even thinking about genres, and Afrotech and Afro House. But you see, it's like what is happening to genre when they're becoming more commercial is like they're sometimes losing a bit their substance because of commercialism, and too many people want to, But I think what is our mission, us and the others, is to make this thing a reality, that it can be made authentically, that it can be meaningful, and that it's telling a story, that the story is real, that you don't come with message of unity if you are just me, myself, and I. It's like that doesn't translate, That's what we see too much on social media also. I'm always thinking, like, why is it so focused on you? What is your message? For me personally, no pun intended to nobody, but it's like seeing a guy coming down of a jet with designer clothes doesn't tell much, So it's just like humbly coming with your own contribution to something that at the end is bigger than all of us, and that you need to be aware of that to deliver something more powerful. And I think people feel it,
Yes.
The audience is choosing. The audience is saying, if you are meaningful for them, you know. All these things about being the king of, or the biggest producer, or the award-winning whatever, that's coming on the way. These are little rewards, but that's not what is driving you, you know. And this is why I think what will happen with Texan this year, the next year, will unpack a lot of this. And I think what is for sure is that we are putting everything together, that the message will be delivered in the most
Crazy,
powerful way, in the most meaningful way.
amazing. But without giving away too much, does the distributor or the label have the album already? Like, is it done and dusted, or
No.
are you guys still sprinkling?
No, because
okay.
we, you know, in Cape Town, in Joburg, the last weeks we have been doing still a lot of recordings.
Okay.
So we are actively working at that. I mean, Texan cannot stop. He's so inspired that, you know, even after hours in the studio, he's still working, you know, on the kitchen table here in Cape Town. It's like
crazy, man.
He's
Legend.
he cannot stop.
Amazing.
And it's contagious also, you know.
Yeah.
It's us, it's the other artists, you know. It's like right now in Joburg, there's different people at work to finish the tracks, and soon we will have something. I think that we will be ready to share it with the world.
That's so
probably
exciting, man.
in the realm of Q2. So in the second quarter of this year.
Wow, that's so exciting, man. Jeez. Guys, yo, I can't wait, bro. It gets me excited just thinking about, man. Thank you for today, bro. Last few questions, bro, before we wrap up. If I'm an artist listening to this right now, be it dance music or any genre, and they're listening to you and they don't have that structure yet of the right people around them, and you know, they're busy finishing the songs, which I imagine a lot of people are in this scenario of starting this process. What is some advice you would give to someone stepping into this realm of independently putting out music? What guidance would you give them with your, you know, journey in mind, you know, and maybe a younger version of, be it a Texan or someone else you work with? What would you tell them as they step into this realm?
You know, definitely, for me, there's some very important things that are often forgotten. If you skip the scrap of social media, everybody's far too obsessed with that in a way. It's like, you know, to exist in that realm. But before asking yourself these questions, you have to know, I would say, who you are and what is your own personal contribution? What is your own personal message? And that means that everything starts with realizing that self-expression is the most important thing. You cannot pretend to say, I'm a creator, I'm a music maker, I'm an artist, if you don't deeply realize that you are your own medium. You know, I think we live in a time where we are mixing presence and visibility with self-expression. I mean, you've been seeing in the last days the powerful speech of some artists at the Grammys. You know, when I think about Alicia Keys right now, I'm thinking like, you know, you think that she's just a pop icon or whatever. I mean, have you seen how powerful this woman is? It's like, anytime I hear her talking, and it's because she knows why she's there. She knows what her role is. She knows what is the message that she wants to deliver. That's what makes her so powerful. Not because she's famous, because she is. And she's incarnating this. So incarnation is something that is very important, I think. So self-expression, incarnation, and finding your true identity. And as you know, George, it's the same for all of us. We need to experience things. We need to be nurturing this. You need to be focused on your own development. You know, I'm I'm believing that there's a strong connection between how creative you can be and how much your personal development needs to be part of your process. You know, it's not just like, and when I talk about personal development, it's precisely take the time to sharpen your craft, take the time to really collect your ideas and write things down, or whatever way you prefer to do it. But taking the time to find out, not be obsessed like, oh yeah, I need to be out there. I need to be, no, because you will be more powerful if you take more time. But when you come, it will be striking. It will be meaningful. I've been saying this word 50 times, I think, in our interview, meaningful. When you think about social media, are you thinking about meaningful? I'm not sure, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's like selling hot hair. So it's really about listening to your own voice, finding your own voice, nurturing this with people around you that are inspiring you this, and that helps you to do your thing. At the end, it's the most important thing. Do your thing. And listen to your own voice more than to people around you that will tell you, yeah, but you know, this is to this or to that, or why did you do it like, you know what I mean? It's like even in production, like there's the classic way to mix a track. If you want to make it differently and that it will sound a bit funny first, like if you believe that this is your voice, that this is your own approach, you're not there to revolutionize the thing. You are there to be your own self. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we see with all, let's say, the people that are clearly the outstanding one, you know?
Yes.
I mean, right now as we speak, I think about Jay Dilla, for example, that is like, you know, one of the most unique artists when it comes to production and even beyond, you know, but there would not be the sound of Jay Dilla if he would have listened probably to people saying, yeah, you know, you should do it more this way or that way. And the list is long, you know. It's like, I personally very much enjoy people like Fred again doing their thing, because this is like, it's like he understood it all and he's himself, and whatever he wants to do, he's going this way or that way. It's like, at the end, it's freedom, you know. You need to try to liberate yourself of all pre-formatted thinking, all prejudice, all this or that. The music industry is not a nice place to be. So you need to shape it as it's working for you. And naturally, the right people will come, you know. I believe in that. It's like, it's all about creating the right energy also. So you see, there's a lot of parameters that are the one that nobody's talking about. Like, you think it's all about signing to the big label, the marketing plan, and the this and the that or the whatever. I don't believe in this for a long, long time. You know, if you want to be telling your story and being authentic, you need to cultivate it, and it takes certain things. And you need to move on a healthy foundation also, you know. So that's pretty much, you know, and there's the work to do with the identity, with the storytelling, that cannot be artificial, but there are good ways, let's say, to approach it. And that's exactly, even though that we know this, or that I'm a professional with 30-year plus behind me in the industry, I still do this groundwork, not later than in the last weeks with the team. We are putting things on the board and we are like, okay, what do we want to say? You need to be very conscious about what we want to say. And I think it would be something that would help much more a lot of young creators. I'm personally doing it also in the context of courses where I want to be in the transmission. Precisely what you're asking. For me, it's something I want to transfer to to the next generation. So I found a way also to do that. Besides the management, you see, management is realization in real. You are in it, and the transmission is to help young guys that have been learning music production how to navigate. And it's not just to tell them, oh, this is how the music industry is, but it's also about developing this sense of identity and storytelling, and that it's becoming a natural thing, and that they realize and that they ask themselves the right question to be like, oh, okay, I can write my story. I don't need a big label to make me important. You know what I mean? It's like, this
100%.
is very important, and we have a responsibility to cultivate this. And that's why I'm taking part to a project in Belgium called Out of Border that is exactly doing that, to bring a more human dimension to how to make a music career, you know?
I love that, bro. And from my side, Phil, just want to honor you, bro. You are one of the craziest forward-thinking A&Rs I've ever come across. I still haven't seen you DJ, but Taxon was telling me you can really, really throw it down, bro. I look forward to seeing that. But just everything you've done, bro, your patience, your ability to part and want to part with knowledge and sharing it with other people and working with you in a label scenario, and how much you want to genuinely change people's and give people knowledge. You know, there's people who, you know, don't necessarily want to part with the knowledge. They'll do the thing, but that's their IP. That's the thing that they know that they keep. Where with you, it's about passing it on so the next person can pass it to the next person. And it's genuine, bro. I want to give you a big shout out, and everything you've been doing with the whole label, Suffocate, Taxon, and everything else, and all the success. I mean, I wish you guys the absolute best, brother. And my last question to you, my bro, is how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, the legacy. Amen. Strangely, that brings a certain emotion to think about that. I like the idea to be the guy that have been helping people to reveal themselves, to have helped and contribute to good things. And I know it's already the case, you know. It's like, and how much there is still to do, or what has been done already with several people. I know that nobody will ever put in question that music is the highest thing. It's the highest instance. It's bigger than us, and that I've been living my life putting this at the right place, and yeah. That, you know, that my kids could be proud of their father in the way that you did something real, you did something with people, and that there's something left. And I think this legacy is so wide, man. It's so wide, because it takes different forms and shapes. And so, yeah, I think when you do something honestly, every person that you are doing things with and nurturing and contributing to, you are a little bit part of them. So there's people I lost in the music scene in the last years that really affected me, like Philip Starr and Phil Asher and Soul Fiction and Alan Bialo and what I saw they all had in common is that they did so many things beyond what they were known for. And that's how I would like to be remembered too. It's like we are much more than what we seem to do, you know, but that's not only true for me or you. Is, you know, we are more, we count more. So
thank you, brother. Thank you for making time. You definitely broke your daddy's curse. And I think you have so much to add, bro. I feel like you're just getting started, bro. You've got that sparkle in your eye, bro, and you're so excited about these things. And I think you're going to contribute so much, brother. I think you're about to hit your golden era. So thank you, my bro. Thank you for making time. Thank you for always being real, bro, and always being someone I can pick up the phone and pick your brain, you know, on a creative idea or anything else. And I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, George.
I can't wait to look back at this conversation in like 10 years, bro. You know?
True. It's
you,
on the record now.
Yeah, it's on the record.
Yeah. No, and thank you for this initiative of the Inside Show, man. I think everything counts. Giving the place for people to tell the story and express themselves. It's a good thing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, bro. Beautiful episode, man.
Heavy is the head that wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.